They should sit in the back. The words landed like a slap across the Meridian Airlines VIP lounge. Conversations died mid-sentence. A businessman's coffee cup froze halfway to his lips. The barista's hand hovered over the espresso machine, steam escaping into sudden stillness. Give those seats to someone who paid for them properly. The woman who spoke wasn't whispering. Her voice carried that particular pitch of entitlement, the kind that assumes agreement, that expects compliance, that had never not once in 57 years been questioned. She wanted witnesses. She wanted everyone to know she was right. Victoria Ashford stood in the center of the lounge like a monument to old money and older prejudices. Blonde hair shellacked into submission. Designer labels screaming from every surface. Louis Vuitton bag announcing status. Burberry scarf despite Atlanta's heat, Gucci heels striking marble like a judge's gavel. Her perfume arrived 3 steps before she did, announcing her presence like trumpets before royalty. And she was staring directly at 2 women. Gabrielle and Simone Laurent, 24-year-old identical twins, occupied cream-colored armchairs near floor-to-ceiling windows. Laptops open. Boarding passes between them. Seats 1A and 1B. First class. Purchased. Earned. Theirs. But Victoria Ashford had decided otherwise. The lounge didn't just go quiet, it held its breath. The hum of privilege that normally filled this space, ice clinking in crystal-soft murmurs about stock portfolios, the whisper of expensive fabric all suspended. Frozen. Waiting. Outside the windows, planes taxied in choreographed patterns. Inside, time stopped. What Victoria didn't know, what she couldn't imagine as she stood radiating certainty, was that in exactly 8 minutes, the woman she was about to humiliate would make a phone call. And that phone call wouldn't just cost Victoria her platinum status. It would cost her everything. Her access, her reputation, her husband's 30-year career, her entire carefully constructed world built on the assumption that some people mattered more than others. 8 minutes. But first, before we watch it all unravel, tell me where you're watching from. Drop your city in the comments. And if this moment stopped you in your tracks, hit subscribe. Tap that like button. Because what happens next isn't just about 2 seats on an airplane. It's about dignity, about justice, about what happens when entitlement finally meets its match. Now, let's rewind to how this moment started. Carlos Reyes had been watching them for 15 minutes. Not because they'd done anything wrong, just because that's what happens when you're a gate agent and 2 young black women settle into first-class territory like they own it. You notice, you watch, you question even when you hate yourself for doing it. Carlos was 28, third-generation Mexican-American, 3 years with Meridian Airlines. He knew the unspoken rules better than the written ones. Platinum Elite members got priority. Complaints from high-status passengers demanded immediate attention. When someone with the right last name asked for something, you made it happen. His supervisor's words still echoed from day 1. Platinum Elite members pay your salary. Never forget that. From his gate desk, he studied the twins. Gabrielle and Simone Laurent, names highlighted in gold on his manifest. VIP status, their own corporate account he'd verified. Beacon Financial. He'd Googled it while pretending to check departure times. A fintech startup, something about financial literacy. The app had 2 million users, and these 2 women, neither looking older than 25, had founded it. They worked like a single organism. One typed, while the other pointed. Finished each other's sentences. Mostly they communicated in glances, the shorthand from sharing not just DNA, but every significant moment of your lives. Gabrielle sat left. Navy blazer over cream silk gold jewelry catching light braids adorned with gold cuffs that chimed softly when she moved. Her fingers drummed when she was thinking. Tap, 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 nervous energy seeking outlet. Simone wore charcoal gray silver accessories complementing her sister's gold. When concentrating, she chewed her bottom lip. Right now, she was deep in whatever presentation filled her screen. Both wore watches. matching but not identical. Carlos couldn't see the engravings, but somehow knew they were there. "We've rehearsed this 47 times," Gabrielle said quietly. 48. Simone didn't look up. "You forgot the 3 a.m. panic spiral. That wasn't rehearsal." "Same thing." Simone glanced up, smiled. "The Global Tech Summit is going to love us or hate us. But they'll definitely remember us. They better. We're paying for these first-class seats with miles from flying to investor meetings." Gabrielle's finger stopped drumming. She sipped water, set it back precisely where it had been. Everything deliberate. Everything controlled. If the VCs in London can't see what Beacon Financial does for communities that banks ignore, that's on them. Not us. Simone finished. Never us. Their boarding passes lay between them like badges of honor. Meridian Airlines, Flight 447, Atlanta to London Heathrow. Departure 6:47 p.m., seats 1A and 1B, the row that said "We've earned this." Gabrielle checked her watch inscription on back invisible but present. "Your time matters. Use it wisely." Their father's words. 20 minutes until boarding. "Want to run through the blockchain section, Maya?" Simone closed her laptop with a soft click. "We graduated summa cum laude from Spelman. We built a company that helps people who've never had bank accounts open their first savings. We've been invited to keynote the biggest tech summit in Europe. We know our material." "You're right." Fingers started drumming again. "I just keep thinking about Mrs. Patterson, the grandmother in Alabama who called us crying because she'd saved $300 for the first time at 68 years old. That's exactly why we're going to London." Simone reached across and squeezed her sister's hand. "Their childhood signal. I've got you. I see you. We're in this together. That's why we earned these seats." The squeeze lingered. Gabrielle squeezed back. "Always." From across the lounge, Carlos watched this interaction and felt something uncomfortable twist in his chest. They were just people. Just passengers. Just 2 young women about to board a flight they'd paid for, heading to a conference they'd earned living their lives. But when Victoria Ashford approached his desk 5 minutes later, Carlos's observations stopped mattering. Because Victoria Ashford had decided those seats belonged to someone else. Victoria Ashford wore her wealth like a shell she couldn't shed. 3 generations of women had taught her in their world appearance was everything. The right clothes, the right friends, the right clubs, the right zip code, the right to decide who belonged where. Her entrance wasn't quiet. Perfume announced her first Chanel No. 5 claiming territory. Then came sound. Heels on marble. Click, click, click. Each step announcing, "I'm here, I matter, acknowledge me." 57, but spending money to look 45. Face lifted until her skin had that tight, shiny quality of expensive plastic. Lips plumped with fillers. Eyes narrowed from Botox or from 5 decades of looking down at others. Probably both. Hair dyed aggressively blonde, styled into architecture. Not a strand moved. Not a strand would dare. Her handbag was Louis Vuitton logos everywhere, designed so everyone would know the cost. $4,000. 3rd one this year. Scarf was Burberry. Shoes were Louboutins, heels high enough to add 3 inches to her 5'4" frame. She jangled when she walked. Gold bracelets. Cartier watch heavy as a threat. Wedding ring with a diamond requiring separate insurance. Behind her, Carlos Reyes struggled to keep up, looking like a man being led somewhere he didn't want to go. Victoria's mother's voice echoed through her mind 30 years of careful training. "The right people know their place, darling. Everyone else needs reminding." She'd done plenty of reminding. Flight attendants who seated her near children, maitre d's who suggested she wait, shop assistants who assumed she couldn't afford merchandise. Each time she'd corrected them, educated them, reminded them who mattered. This would be no different. Victoria surveyed the lounge with practiced assessment. Businessmen with scotch. Young couple on honeymoon, probably upgraded once. Older woman reading Proust in French pearls at throat, the kind of understated old money Victoria both recognized and competed with. And then she saw them. The twins. Her rationalization machine, well-oiled from decades of practice, began immediately. First class isn't just about money. Any tech bubble millionaire can buy a ticket these days. It's about breeding. Understanding unspoken rules, knowing which fork to use, knowing the right finishing schools, knowing the social register. These girls, pretty yes, well-dressed, certainly simply don't understand. They're young. They're black. Something about them screams outsider. New money if they have money at all. Probably points, or upgrades, or corporate quotas. First class is her space. Richard's space. People like them. People who've earned the right through decades of loyalty, through status that means something. She's doing them a favor, really. Saving them discomfort. Business class would suit them better. They'd fit in there. They'd be more comfortable with people like them. They'd thank her later. Victoria smoothed her scarf and approached with the confidence of someone who'd never been told no. This would be easy. People always moved when she asked. "Excuse me." Victoria's voice cut through the lounge's murmur. Not loud yet, but sharp enough to demand attention. She wasn't speaking to Gabrielle and Simone. She was speaking at them, gaze fixed somewhere above their heads. Gabrielle's typing stopped. The sudden silence created a vacuum. Simone's eyes lifted slowly. They'd heard that tone before. Every black woman has. That particular pitch combining false politeness with unmistakable condescension. "I'm being nice right now, so you should appreciate it while it lasts." Carlos stood behind Victoria name tag, askew face already showing strain. His tablet trembled slightly in his hands. "Ma'am?" He began addressing Victoria, but glancing at the twins as I explained the flight is fully booked. "There are no other seats available in first class." Victoria waved dismissively. Bracelets jangled. "Ridiculous. 30 years I've flown Platinum Elite with Meridian. There are always solutions for valued customers." She gestured toward the seating area. "What about those seats?" Carlos's face lost color. "These passengers are confirmed in seats 1A and 1B, Mrs. Ashford. Their reservations are valid. Well, they can move. Statement, not suggestion. Not a question, but a reality needing implementation." Her voice carried certainty from 57 years of having the world rearrange itself for her comfort. "My husband is in seat 1C, Richard Ashford. Perhaps you've heard of him." She let the name hang, waited for recognition, got it from Carlos's widening eyes. Senior partner at Ashford Klein and Associates, one of the top corporate law firms in the country. "We handle Fortune 500 companies. We matter." The name drop landed. Carlos's posture shifted inward. Recognition flickered across his face. "We always travel together. First class. Tradition." Victoria's voice took on that tone of explaining obvious things to slow children. "Your booking system separated us due to a last-minute family emergency. Unfortunate but fixable." She turned, finally looking directly at Gabrielle and Simone, not at their faces, at their clothes, their braids, their skin, a 3-second scan that communicated volumes. These young ladies, the word ladies somehow sounding like costume that didn't fit, won't mind taking my business class seat. Row 5 window. Still premium. I'm sure they'll be more comfortable there anyway. The words hung like smoke. Thick. Toxic. More comfortable there. The implication crystal clear. The lounge so quiet even the ambient music seemed to lower its volume. Other passengers no longer pretending not to notice. A man lowered his newspaper. A woman paused mid-email. Gabrielle placed both hands flat on the table. Grounding. Fingers spread wide against cool wood. When she spoke, her voice was even measured the product of years navigating spaces where her presence was questioned. "I'm sorry, but we do mind. We booked these specific seats months ago." Victoria's eyebrows shot up. Genuine shock flickered. Shock that they'd spoken at all, that they'd disagreed, that they'd dared. "Well," Victoria's smile showed too many teeth. Not a smile, a warning. "I'm sure Meridian can compensate you. Travel vouchers, perhaps. An upgrade certificate for future flights. Quite generous when you think about it." "It's really quite unnecessary," Simone said, her voice higher, sharper an edge suggesting she'd fight first and talk later. "We specifically chose these seats for space and privacy. We have a presentation to finalize, work to do, no intention of moving." Tense silence descended, the kind with texture, with weight, with consequences. 3 rows away, Brooklyn Hayes raised her phone. 29 travel influencer, 500,000 followers. She recognized good content. Started recording. Near the window, Marcus Delgado, 34 journalist for Tech Business Daily, shifted closer. His phone already open to live stream. Carlos looked like he wanted the floor to open beneath him. He was a gate agent, not a mediator, not equipped for this. But his training had taught him something else, something living in spaces between official policy and unspoken rules, something reinforced through observation and performance reviews that rewarded keeping high-status passengers satisfied. Platinum Elite members pay your salary. Never forget that. His supervisor's voice. Day 1. Every day since. He was making a choice. He didn't realize it was the wrong one until far too late. Carlos made his first mistake. He turned to Gabrielle and Simone, expression pleading. "Ladies, I understand your position, but Mrs. Ashford is one of our most valued customers. If we could just find a way to accommodate everyone." What he meant was, if you could just move. What he meant was, she matters more. What he meant was, please make this easy for me. Simone's tablet hit the table. Not hard enough to damage, hard enough to punctuate. Accommodate everyone. We are accommodated. We have our seats. The seats we paid for with miles from pitch meetings where people like her looked at us exactly the way she's looking at us now. Mrs. Ashford. Carlos tried again, turning back with visible relief, perhaps another solution. Maybe other passengers willing to switch, or I could call my supervisor. No. Victoria's voice hardened, false sweetness evaporating. No more negotiations. These are first-class seats. I need to sit with my husband. We always sit together, non-negotiable. She pulled out her phone. Theatrical, practiced, weaponized. Let me call Richard right now. He can speak to your supervisor. He has connections at corporate. This will be resolved in 5 minutes. A power play. A demonstration. Look at my access. Look what I can do if you don't comply. From behind the coffee bar, Elena Torres watched with growing discomfort. 41 VIP lounge manager, 15 years with Meridian. She'd seen entitled passengers, managed difficult situations. But this felt different. This felt like watching a car crash in slow motion. She took a step toward the gathering crowd. Carlos caught her eye and shook his head. Not yet. Let me handle this. Elena stopped, but her hand hovered near her phone. Ready. Victoria's voice rose, ensuring the entire lounge heard. Do you know what Platinum Elite means? 3 million miles I've flown with this airline. 3 million. 30 years of loyalty. My husband and I have never been treated with such disrespect. You're not being disrespected, Gabrielle said quietly. But we're not moving. Excuse me. Victoria's face flushed red color spreading from neck to cheeks. You don't get to tell me what is or isn't disrespectful. I am a paying customer, a valued customer, and I'm telling you I need these seats. And we're telling you," Simone said, voice matching her sister's calm, but with steel underneath. "We need them too. We had them first. We're not giving them up because you decided they should be yours." That's when Laurent Fitzgerald arrived. 35 senior supervisor, blonde, polished. She carried a tablet and an expression that said she'd already decided the outcome before hearing what it was about. Carlos had called 3 minutes ago, mentioned seating issue with Platinum Elite member. That was all she'd needed to hear. Platinum Elite. Magic words that opened doors and closed ranks. Mrs. Ashford, Laurent said warmly, extending a hand. Victoria shook with visible relief. "I'm Laurent Fitzgerald, senior supervisor. I understand we have a seating situation. That should have been resolved 10 minutes ago. I need seats 1A and 1B. My husband is in 1C. These girls can take my business class seat." Laurent turned to Gabrielle and Simone. Her eyes did the same scan Victoria's had done. Clothes, hair, skin, assessment, judgment. 3 seconds. "Ladies, what if we offered you both business class seats together, rows 5A and 5B, still premium, plus $200 travel vouchers each and 10,000 bonus miles?" "We don't want compensation," Gabrielle said. Each word a brick in a wall. "We want the seats we booked. Let's be reasonable. Mrs. Ashford has extenuating circumstances, family emergency requiring late booking. Surely you understand the need for flexibility." "We understand she wants our seats," Simone said, voice cold enough to frost glass. "What we don't understand is why her last-minute emergency becomes our problem to solve. This isn't about wanting Victoria interjected, all pretense abandoned. This is about what's appropriate. Customer service. Treating loyal passengers with the respect they deserve." Gabrielle felt something familiar rising in her chest. Not embarrassment. Anger. The cold kind that starts in your sternum and spreads like ice water through veins. She'd felt it at 19 when a professor assumed she was there on diversity scholarship, when he'd said in front of the entire class, "I'm glad the college is finally investing in students like you." She'd felt it at 22 when the first VC had looked past her and Simone to their white male intern. When do the real founders arrive? She'd felt it 1,000 times. Every time someone looked at her and decided before she'd even spoken that she didn't belong. But this time was different. This time she had her boarding pass. She had proof. And she had a phone number that could change everything. Under the table, invisible to everyone, Simone's hand found Gabrielle's. Squeezed. The signal had changed meaning. Soon, almost time. Get ready. Get. Gabrielle squeezed back. "I know. Let's do this." Victoria dialed. "Richard, I'm at the airport. There's a problem. These seats. Call Mitchell at corporate. Call someone who can fix this." Pause. Victoria's face changed, annoyance flickering to anger. "I don't care if you're in a meeting. This is important. I'm being treated like I don't matter. Like 30 years of loyalty means nothing." Longer pause. Victoria's jaw tightened. "Fine. But I'm calling Mitchell myself. This is unacceptable." She hung up, jaw clenched, looked at Laurent, at Carlos, at the twins with something new in her eyes. Not just entitlement, desperation. Because for the first time in 30 years, someone wasn't immediately doing what she asked. "My husband is calling corporate. This will be resolved. People who matter will handle this." But her voice had changed. A tremor, a crack, the first hint that maybe this wasn't going to end the way she expected. The moment crystallized. Victoria Ashford stood there, phone-clutched designer bag, weighing like armor. Decades of unchallenged privilege wrapping around her and made her final, fatal decision. She was going to be explicit. "Look," she said. voice dropping to that register white women use when they're about to say something they know is wrong, but believe they're entitled to say anyway. "I don't know how you got those tickets." She looked directly at Gabrielle and Simone. Not at their faces, at their braids, their skin, their existence in a space she'd decided was hers. Maybe they were a gift. Maybe you used points. Maybe some corporate diversity initiative. Some quota. I don't know. And frankly, I don't care. The lounge went completely silent. Even the ice machine behind the bar chose that moment to drop cubes. The sound echoed like gunshots. But first class is not for everyone. It's not about having a ticket. Anyone can buy a ticket these days. It's about fitting. Understanding certain expectations, certain standards, certain qualities. Mrs. Ashford Carlos' whispered voice cracking. "Please, don't." But Victoria was on a roll, righteous, certain. She'd been challenged, which didn't happen. Been refused, which never happened. Now she was going to make absolutely sure these two young women understood their place. "You're young, obviously educated. Your clothes are nice. You present well." She said present like judging livestock. But there's a difference between having money and having class. Between owning a ticket and belonging in the seat. "Do you understand?" "Crystal clear," Simone said. Her voice could freeze nitrogen. "Good. Then you understand why business class would be more appropriate. More suitable. You'd fit in better with people like you." There it was. People like you. Gabrielle's hand tightened on her laptop until knuckles went white. Nails pressed crescents into palms. Every muscle wanted to stand, to shout, to unleash 300 years of rage. But she didn't, because Gabrielle Laurent survived by planning, by staying calm while others lost control, by weaponizing composure. Under the table, Simone's fingers laced with hers. Squeezed. Now. Do it. Now. The VIP lounge had become a theater. Every passenger a witness. Every phone a camera. Brooklyn Hayes was recording, already composing the caption. "You won't believe what I just witnessed." Marcus Delgado was live streaming comments flooding faster than he could read. "Is this real? Someone stop her." A woman named Claire Winters sat frozen 3 rows away. She'd been silent this whole time. Uncomfortable. Uncertain. Now she reached for her phone, hands shaking. Elena Torres moved, stepped out from behind the coffee bar. "Mrs. Ashford, their reservation is valid. They are confirmed passengers. They have every right to those seats." Lauren spun on her, eyes blazing. "Elena, I'm handling this. Step back or face disciplinary action. I'm not stepping back from discrimination." That's a very serious accusation. It's a very serious situation, but the damage was done. Victoria had said too much, revealed too much. Carlos stood there, badge, crooked face, pale, realizing he'd facilitated this. He'd brought Victoria over. He'd asked the twins to move. He'd prioritized status over dignity because that's what he'd been trained to do. Platinum Elite members pay your salary. He'd never forgotten. And now it was documented. Viral by the second. Jamie Kim, 26 junior gate agent, had been silent until now. Watching. Learning what kind of agent he wanted to be versus what kind he was being trained to become. He shook his head. "No. This is wrong." Carlos looked at him. "What? This is wrong." "They have their seats. We can't ask them to move because someone else decided they don't belong. That's not policy. That's bias." "You need to be quiet," Lauren snapped. But Jamie's grandmother's voice echoed. "Silence is agreement. I'll testify if there's an investigation. I'll tell exactly what happened." Victoria laughed, sharp, breaking glass, An investigation over airplane seats. Absurd. She reached out, before anyone could stop her, before anyone could process. Her hand clamped onto Gabrielle's arm. "You're making this more difficult than it needs to be." The lounge exploded. Brooklyn's video captured it perfectly. Victoria's hand on Gabrielle's arm. Gabrielle's face frozen in shock, then fury. Simone rising so fast her chair scraped marble. She just grabbed her Brooklyn's voice on the recording. "Everyone's seeing this." "That's assault," Marcus said into his live stream. "Physical assault. On camera." Elena moved fast. "Mrs. Ashford, remove your hand." "Immediately." Victoria didn't remove it. Gripped tighter. "I'm trying to help you understand." Gabrielle's voice when she finally spoke was quiet. Deadly quiet. The kind that comes before storms. "Get your hand off me." Victoria released. Perhaps realizing she'd gone too far. Perhaps sensing the shift. Perhaps finally understanding something had changed irrevocably. But the damage was done. The line was crossed. 20 phones, 50 phones, 100 phones, all filming, all recording, all bearing witness to Victoria Ashford touching a black woman without permission and proving beyond doubt exactly who she was. Gabrielle stood. Simone stood. They stood together, shoulders touching united, and Gabrielle pulled out her phone. "You've just made a mistake," Gabrielle said. "I don't think so," Victoria replied, but her voice wavered. "You will." Gabrielle's finger hovered over a contact. One name. Dad. She pressed dial, rang once, twice, then a voice warm and familiar. "Gabrielle. Aren't you supposed to be boarding? Hi, Dad." Gabrielle's eyes never left Victoria's face. "We have a situation." 3 seconds of pause. In those 3 seconds, Victoria Ashford's face began its transformation. Confidence, crumbling confusion, settling the first flickers of concern lighting behind her eyes. What kind of situation? Michael Laurent's voice shifted. A father recognizing his daughter's tone. The kind where a woman named Victoria Ashford just put her hands on me and is trying to force Simone and me out of our first-class seats because she says we don't belong. Complete silence on the other end. The kind that has weight, that has meaning, that precedes earthquakes. "Put me on speaker, sweetheart." Gabrielle pressed the button. Audio filled the quiet lounge. Every person within 20 feet could hear perfectly. "You're on speaker, Dad." "Good. Now is there a Meridian Airlines employee present?" Carlos raised a trembling hand before realizing Michael couldn't see him. He croaked. "Yes, sir. Carlos Reyes. Gate agent." "Carlos Reyes." Michael repeated the name like carving it into stone. "Carlos, I need you to pull up your supervisor, right now. And I need them to pull up their supervisor. I want every single person who touched this situation standing in front of my daughters in 2 minutes." "Can you do that?" Carlos was already moving, fingers flying across his tablet. "Yes, sir, right away." Laurent stepped forward, trying to regain control. "Mr. Laurent, I'm Lauren Fitzgerald, senior supervisor. Perhaps we can resolve this calmly." "Calmly?" Michael's voice could freeze fire. "You want calm? After my daughters confirmed passengers with valid tickets in seats they booked months ago have been harassed, discriminated against, and physically assaulted in your lounge, while your staff facilitated it. You want calm?" "Sir, I didn't personally. Not you. The woman who believes my daughters don't belong in first class. Is she there?" Victoria had gone very still, face tight, white at the edges. "I'm here. Your name." "Victoria Ashford. Victoria Ashford." He repeated it the same way, filing away, building a case. "And you felt entitled to put your hands on my daughter. I was just trying to. You were trying to force 2 black women out of seats they paid for because you decided they didn't belong. That's what you were trying to do. Let's be very clear about what happened here. You don't understand. I'm a Platinum Elite member. 30 years. I have status. Rights. These girls. Those girls, Michael said, voice dropping so low it became a whisper. But somehow more terrifying are my daughters. The VIP lounge was so quiet you could have heard a snowflake land. Those girls are Gabrielle and Simone Laurent, 24 years old. Graduates of Spelman College, summa cum laude. Co-founders of Beacon Financial, a company that has helped 2 million people access financial tools that banks refused to provide. Keynote speakers at the Global Tech Summit tomorrow. Brilliant, accomplished, extraordinary young women. Victoria's Louis Vuitton bag slipped from her shoulder. Hit the floor. She didn't pick it up. And they are my daughters. And I, Mrs. Ashford, am Michael Laurent. The pause was excruciating. I own this airline. If there had been silence before now, there was a vacuum. Nobody breathing, nobody moving, nobody processing fast enough to react. Victoria's face went from white to gray, the color of ash, of endings. Lauren's tablet slipped from her hands. Clattered. Nobody picked it up. Carlos closed his eyes. Like if he couldn't see it, maybe it wasn't real. But Jamie Kim felt vindication, relief. Maybe doing the right thing actually mattered. Brooklyn's live stream exploded. Comment section unreadable, share numbers climbing by thousands. Marcus whispered into his phone, "You are watching history." Elena Torres felt emotion well up. Not sadness. Justice. Being proven right when you thought you'd be punished. And Gabrielle and Simone felt something they'd carried their entire lives finally lift. Not the anger. That would take longer. Not the exhaustion of constantly proving they belonged. That was generational. But the fear that this moment would end like so many others with them apologizing, shrinking, moving, that fear evaporated. Michael Laurent wasn't finished. Mrs. Ashford, your Platinum Elite status is revoked. Effective immediately. You are banned from all Meridian Airlines flights. Permanently. Globally. But not finished. You will be escorted from this airport by security. Your name and actions will be documented in every training seminar we conduct. You will be an example, a cautionary tale. Your face in our training videos. Your words quoted in our policies. That will be your legacy. Victoria tried to speak. Nothing came. Carlos Reyes. Your badge. Turn it in. Your employment with Meridian is terminated. Effective immediately. For cause. Carlos's hands shook as he unclipped his badge. His pregnant wife. Their apartment. Their baby in 8 weeks. All slipping away. Lauren Fitzgerald, you'll receive formal notice of suspension pending investigation. If we determine you prioritized status over dignity, your employment will be terminated. Lauren's mouth opened. Closed. No words. Jamie Kim, you spoke up. You recognized injustice. You did what every employee should do. You'll receive a promotion and formal commendation. Thank you for your integrity. Jamie exhaled, nodded. Couldn't speak. Elena Torres, you tried to stop this. You recognized what was happening. You'll hear from my office about your new position. Director of VIP Experience. Effective Monday. Elena covered her mouth with both hands, emotion flowing. And to every passenger watching recording bearing witness, I want you to know this is not who Meridian Airlines is. These are individuals making terrible choices. They are facing consequences. Immediate, severe, appropriate consequences. Someone started clapping. Then another. Within seconds, the entire VIP lounge was applauding. Victoria stood frozen, her world ending in real time. Her screen lit up repeatedly. She didn't reach for it, because everything she'd built 30 years of status, of social position, of believing herself better than, was collapsing like a sandcastle hit by high tide. Airport security arrived. 2 officers, professional, not unkind, but absolutely firm. Ma'am, one addressed Gabrielle. Are you injured? Do you need medical attention? No, I'm fine. Ma'am, the officer turned to Victoria. You need to come with us. This is absurd. I didn't do anything wrong. I just asked for what I deserved. Ma'am, you physically touched another passenger without consent. That's documented. The airline has requested your removal. Please come with us. My bags. We'll collect your belongings. As security escorted her toward the exit, every eye followed. Some faces showed satisfaction, some pity. Most showed relief that justice for once was visible and immediate. Victoria's last look backward wasn't at the twins. It was at the first-class cabin visible through windows, at the space she'd believed was hers by right, at the world she'd just been banned from permanently. The moment elevator doors closed on her, the lounge released its collective breath. Conversations exploded. Phones everywhere. The story spreading like wildfire. Carlos stood at his gate desk, badge in hand, staring at plastic that used to represent his livelihood. Laurent approached, her own face ashen. I have to take that. Carlos handed it over. I have a baby coming. I know. She'd helped plan his shower, seen ultrasound photos, congratulated him. Now she was taking his job because he'd chosen wrongly. I'm sorry. Are you? Because you made the same choice? You just didn't get caught yet. Laurent had no response. He was right. She'd prioritized Victoria's status the moment she'd arrived. She'd been prepared to facilitate discrimination because that's what had been rewarded, modeled, encouraged. Platinum Elite members pay your salary. She'd never forgotten. And now she might lose hers too. Jamie watched this from 10 feet away, learning, understanding, seeing the cost of complicity in real time. His screen lit up with a text from his mother. Proud of you for speaking up. That took courage. He responded. It was the bare minimum. I should have done more sooner. But he'd spoken. That was something. That was more than Carlos had done. More than Laurent. And Michael Laurent had noticed. Had rewarded it. Elena had disappeared into her office. Needed a moment. Needed to process that she'd just been promoted for doing what should have been expected. Her phone rang. Michael Laurent's office. Ms. Torres. This is Daniel Cooper, Executive VP. Mr. Laurent asked me to call. First, thank you for your integrity. Second, we'd like to fly you to headquarters Monday morning to discuss your new role. We're serious about change. We need people like you leading it. I'll be there. And Mr. Cooper, I'm going to make sure this never happens again. That's exactly why we're promoting you. Across the lounge, the twins had sat back down. Not because they wanted to, but because standing felt performative when all they wanted was to board their flight and decompress. Simone pulled out her laptop, stared without seeing. Gabrielle did the same. You okay? Ask me again in an hour. Fair. A young woman approached hesitantly. Early 20s, black, Georgia Tech hoodie. Stopped a few feet away, nervous. I'm so sorry to bother you, but I had to say thank you. You're not bothering us. I'm a computer science major. I've been told I don't belong in my classes. By other students. By a professor once. I was thinking about transferring, or quitting. But watching you just now, tears streaming, you didn't back down. You didn't make yourself smaller. You just said no. I needed to see that. What's your name? Destiny. Destiny Williams. Destiny, do you belong in computer science? Yes. Then take up space. Don't apologize for being there. Build loudly. Succeed loudly. And when someone tells you that you don't belong, remember their opinion isn't your reality. Destiny nodded, wiped her face, walked away, transformed. And that's when Gabrielle understood. This wasn't just about them keeping their seats. This was about every Destiny watching. Every person who'd been told they didn't belong. This was bigger than them. had always been bigger. Her screen lit up. Their mother. Video call. She answered. Her parents' faces filled the screen, both with emotion in their eyes. "Baby girls," their mother said, voice thick. "You did it. You stood up. You made them see you. We learned from the best." "What happens now?" their father asked. "To that woman." "Her husband consequences," Simone said simply. "Real ones, the kind that teach lessons." "Good," their mother said fiercely. They talked for a few more minutes. About the presentation, about Beacon Financial, about family. Because even in the middle of viral moments, they were still just daughters calling parents. When they hung up, their flight was boarding. First-class passengers rows 1 through 4. Gabrielle and Simone gathered their belongings, rolled their bags toward the jetway, past the gate desk where Carlos used to stand, where Jamie now stood with his temporary supervisor badge. "Ms. Laurent, Ms. Laurent, thank you for showing us what courage looks like. Thank you for speaking up." That mattered. They boarded, leaving behind a lounge forever changed a video with millions of views already, and a woman whose world was still collapsing in real time. Victoria's walk through Hartsfield-Jackson was a perp walk without handcuffs, security on both sides, not touching but making clear she wasn't leaving on her terms. She was being removed, escorted, banned. Her heels clicked against tile, each step echoing, each step taking her further from the life she'd known. Phones followed, some recording, some just watching, everyone knowing. A man looked up from his newspaper and shook his head. A teenager whispered behind raised hands. An employee pointedly looked away. In the administrative office 3 terminals away, Lauren was having the worst call of her career. "Yes, sir," she said to Regional Director Marcus Williams. "Yes, I prioritized the Platinum Elite member. No, I didn't consider. Yes, I understand that's not policy. That's the opposite of what our diversity training says." Her hands shook. 12 years building this career customer service to agent to supervisor to senior supervisor crumbling. She'd followed the rules as she understood them. Rules demonstrated daily. Status matters. High-value customers get priority. But nobody had taught her what to do when status conflicted with dignity. Or maybe they had, and she'd chosen not to listen. "Your suspension begins immediately. HR will contact you within 48 hours. If we determine you violated anti-discrimination policy and Lauren, it really looks like you did, your employment will be terminated. I understand. Turn in your credentials to Jamie Kim. He's acting supervisor." Jamie. But he's the person who recognized discrimination and spoke up. That makes him more qualified than anyone else in that lounge. Lauren had no response. The call ended. Meanwhile, Carlos walked through the employee exit in a daze. Badge gone, access gone, ID gone. 3 years ended in 30 minutes. He sat in his car. The ultrasound photo of his daughter hung from the rearview mirror. Due in 8 weeks. Isabella. Bella for short. How was he going to tell Maria? His screen lit up. "Jamie. I'm sorry, man. I wish there was something I could do." Carlos responded. "You did do something. You spoke up. I should have listened." He started the car, began driving home, each mile heavier than the last, mind racing through savings, unemployment, Cobra hospital bills, the new apartment lease, all possible on his salary, none possible without it. He pulled over at a gas station, couldn't drive while his vision blurred, sat in his car and let himself break. Then he pulled out his laptop, started typing an apology to Gabrielle and Simone Laurent, to everyone, to his daughter who would one day learn what her father had done. "I made a choice today that I will regret for the rest of my life. I prioritized status over dignity. I facilitated discrimination because I was trained to believe some passengers matter more than others. I was wrong. The training was wrong. The priorities were wrong. I'm sorry. I don't expect forgiveness, but I needed to say this. Accountability begins with admission. I'm teaching my daughter better than I behaved today. That starts now. He sent it to Beacon Financial's contact email, knew they probably wouldn't read it. But he'd said it. Back at the gate, Jamie was being briefed by Regional Director Williams. You did the right thing. That took courage, especially challenging a supervisor. Most people stay silent. It felt necessary. Like if I stayed silent, I was agreeing. Good instinct. That moral clarity is what we need in leadership. This promotion is temporary, but you have potential. I won't waste it. And Jamie, the passengers, the Laurent twins, make sure they get to their flight without incidents. Personally escort them if needed. Already done, sir. They boarded 5 minutes ago. Good man. Jamie hung up, looked at where the twins had been sitting. Their chairs empty now, but the impression they'd left the change they'd catalyzed was permanent. His screen lit up. His mother. Your grandmother saw the video. Said you reminded her of your grandfather during the civil rights movement. That's legacy, son. Jamie felt emotion prick his eyes. His grandfather had been arrested twice during sit-ins in the 1960s, had risked everything. Jamie had spoken up in an airport lounge. The scales weren't comparable. But maybe that was the point. Every generation fought with the tools they had. His grandfather had lunch counters. Jamie had airline lounges. The battlefield changed. The fight remained. He adjusted his badge, looked at passengers waiting to board, all human, all deserving of dignity, all belonging equally. That was the job now, not just checking tickets, ensuring dignity. 40 blocks away in a corner office on the 47th floor, Richard Ashford watched his career implode. James Rothwell had just walked out. Not stormed, that would have been better. James had gathered his papers methodically, closed his laptop with a decisive click, stood, looked Richard in the eye, said 4 words. We're done, Richard. Then left. No yelling. No negotiation. Just done. Richard's screen was already buzzing, messages appearing like wounds. Have you seen this? Is that Victoria? Call me immediately. He opened Twitter. His wife's name trending, number 3 nationwide. The video played. Victoria's voice. There's a difference between having money and having class. First class is not for everyone. The moment she grabbed the woman's arm. The phone call. I own this airline. Victoria's face as her world ended. 10 million views. 15. 20. Each view another witness. His assistant appeared. Jennifer, face pale. Mr. Ashford, the managing partners are requesting your immediate presence in the main conference room. Not requesting. Summoning. Richard stood, straightened his tie with trembling fingers, walked the hallway like a condemned man. Inside the conference room, 5 managing partners sat around mahogany. Margaret Klein at the head, 62. Founding partner, face like carved stone. Richard sit? He sat. We've seen the video. We've seen Victoria's behavior. We've received notification from James Rothwell that they're terminating our contract, $15 million in annual revenue. Gone. I had no idea Victoria was going to. Margaret held up a hand. We don't care what you knew. We care that your wife used your name as leverage to discriminate against passengers on an airline owned by one of the most powerful businessmen in the Southeast. An airline we were pursuing. An airline that will now never work with us. I can fix this. We already called. His office declined. Referred us to legal. Howard Chen slid a document across the table. Richard picked it up. Read. Felt ice in his veins. Notice of potential legal action for defamation, harassment, and creating a hostile environment. That's not all. Margaret pulled out her phone. Your wife is trending. # banned for racism. Over 200,000 uses. The Georgia Bar has opened an ethics inquiry. Every legal blog is running stories about Ashford Klein and associates enabling racist behavior. I didn't enable. Your name is on the firm. Your wife invoked your position. You are responsible. What do you want? Margaret folded her hands. Clause 14b. Actions bringing the firm into disrepute. We're invoking it. Richard felt his heart stop. You're removing me. I founded this firm. My name was on the door, Elizabeth Warren corrected. Building management is changing signage Monday. You can't. We can. You have two options. Resign immediately with standard severance. Leave quietly. We issue a retirement statement. Your reputation takes a hit but survives. Or we convene a full vote to remove you by force. Your behavior becomes public record. The bar investigation continues. Your reputation is permanently destroyed. That's not a choice. No, Margaret said softly. It's a consequence. Your wife made a choice to discriminate, to use your name as a weapon. Now you face the consequences of her behavior and your failure to address it before this point. She slid paper and pen across the table. Resignation letter, already drafted. After 30 years of dedicated service, Richard Ashford has decided to resign to focus on personal and family matters. Translation: We're throwing you out to save ourselves. Richard's hand shook as he signed. 30 years reduced to a signature. What about my clients, reassigned? My office, being cleared. My staff reassigned to other partners. Everything he'd built, gone. Because his wife decided two black women didn't belong in seats they'd earned. He signed, dated, slid the paper back. Margaret picked it up, nodded. Your access is revoked. Jennifer is packing your things. Security will escort you. Security, I'm not. We need to make clear to every employee, every client, that we will not tolerate racism. Your departure needs to be visible. She walked to the door, paused. I'm sorry, Richard, but your wife made this necessary, and you made it possible by not stopping her sooner. 2 security guards appeared. Not unkind, just present. He walked back toward his office. In the hallway, Jennifer met him with a box. Photos, law degree, awards, 30 years in cardboard. Guards escorted him to the elevator, down 47 floors, through the lobby where colleagues averted their eyes, out onto the street where his name still hung on the building. Until Monday. He got in his car, started driving. Traffic slow. Atlanta rush hour. Atlanta rush hour pressed in around him. Brake lights stretching to the horizon. A billboard advertised family vacations he couldn't afford now. His exit approached the one he'd taken every day for 30 years. The one he'd never take for work again. Time to think. To feel 30 years evaporate because the woman he'd married believed some people deserved more space. And he'd never challenged her enough, never confronted her prejudices, never said, "No, Victoria, that's not okay," when she'd made comments about those people. He'd been complicit through silence. And now silence was all he had left. His phone rang. Victoria. He didn't answer. It rang again, 5 times, 6. He finally answered on the 7th. "Richard, where are you? I'm home. I need you. These people. Stop. Just stop talking." "But Richard, these 2 girls and their father." "I know what happened. I've seen the video. 20 million people have seen it, Victoria. Do you understand? 20 million people watched you discriminate because you decided they didn't belong?" Silence. "I lost my job. James terminated our contract. 15 million a year gone. The partners voted me out. 30 years ended because of what you did. That's not fair." "Fair? You want to talk about fair?" 2 young women were sitting in seats they'd paid for, and you decided they didn't belong because of their skin. You used my name, my reputation, my position as leverage, and it turns out their father owns the airline. You destroyed both our lives because you couldn't accept that black women belong in first class. I didn't know who they were. You shouldn't have needed to know. That's the point. You should have left them alone regardless. But you couldn't, because in your heart you think some people are better than others. And today the world found out. He hung up. When he arrived home, he saw the for sale sign already being planted. Inside, Victoria sat in the drawing room, wine in hand, eyes red, looking older than he'd ever seen her. "We need to talk." "I don't want to talk. I want you to fix this." "I can't fix this. Nobody can. You broke something that can't be repaired. You showed the world who you are. Now we both live with it." He walked upstairs, to the guest room, because he couldn't sleep next to her tonight, couldn't look at her without seeing the video. 30 years of marriage, 30 years of partnership, all hollow now, all revealed as built on sand, on privilege never examined, on prejudice never confronted. He remembered their wedding, Victoria in white, radiant young. Had the prejudice been there then, subtle, easy to ignore, or had it grown over years? He'd been complicit, not just by failing to stop her, by benefiting from the same structures she defended, by accepting clients who'd never hire black lawyers, by attending clubs with no black members, by living in neighborhoods designed to exclude. He wasn't innocent. He was just finally paying. He lay on the bed, stared at the ceiling, understood his old life was over, because in the end, silence is agreement. And he'd been silent too long. On the plane, Gabrielle and Simone tried to process what had just happened. Their laptops were open. The presentation was there. Words about financial literacy and market penetration. Important, but somehow smaller. "Do you think we did the right thing?" Simone asked quietly. Calling Dad, not moving, letting it escalate to all of that. What was the alternative? Move to business class. Accept that we don't belong in seats we paid for. Teach every black girl watching that when white women decide you don't belong, you shrink and apologize. No. I know. But Victoria just lost everything. Carlos lost his job, his family. Will struggle because he made a choice. He chose to prioritize status. That's not our fault, not our responsibility. We asked to keep the seats we'd earned. I know. Simone closed her laptop, leaned back. But it doesn't feel good. Victory doesn't feel the way I thought. Gabrielle understood. She'd expected triumph, satisfaction, clean justice. Instead, she felt exhausted, drained, aware of how much energy it took to stand firm. Justice isn't comfortable. Mom told us that. Remember? After that, Professor assumed we were diversity admits. She said justice hurts because it requires holding people accountable. And accountability is painful. For everyone. For everyone. A flight attendant appeared. Jessica Lynn, name tag read. Young blonde, genuine warmth. Ms. Laurent. Ms. Laurent. I wanted to personally welcome you. I'm Jessica. I'll be taking care of first class. Can I get you anything? Water would be great, both twins said simultaneously, then smiled. Coming right up. Jessica hesitated. And I want you to know what happened in the lounge. That's not who we are. Those individuals made terrible choices. But the rest of us, we see you. We value you. Thank you. That means more than you know. Jessica left, returned quickly with water and a message. Compliments of Captain Rivera. He asked me to tell you he's honored to have you on his flight. After Jessica left, Gabrielle opened her phone. Notifications everywhere. One caught her eye. W. Stanford, applicant@gmail.com. Subject: Thank you for not moving. She opened it. Dear Ms. Laurent and Ms. Laurent, my name is Destiny Williams. You don't know me, but I was in that lounge. I saw everything. I'm a 22-year-old computer science major at Georgia Tech. I'm the only black woman in most of my classes. Last week, a professor asked if I was in the right room. Yesterday, a study partner asked if I needed help understanding the complex concepts. Tomorrow, I was going to drop out. But then I watched you. I watched you sit there with perfect calm while that woman tried to erase you. I watched you refuse to move even when it would have been easier. I watched you stand your ground and change everything. I'm not dropping out. I'm staying. I'm taking up space. I'm finishing my degree because you showed me what refusing to shrink looks like. Thank you for fighting. Thank you for being exactly who you are. With gratitude. Destiny. Gabrielle read it aloud. By the end, both had moisture gathering at the corners of their eyes. This is why we didn't move. This is why it matters, Gabrielle responded. Dear Destiny, you didn't need us to show you strength. You already were strong. You were surviving in spaces that questioned your right to be there. That's courage. We just reminded you that you don't have to make yourself smaller. Take up space, Destiny. Build loudly. And when you succeed, and you will reach back and help the next person. That's how we change things. Not by any one of us being extraordinary, but by all of us refusing to be erased. Stay strong. You belong in that program. You belong everywhere you've earned the right to be. Gabrielle and Simone Laurent. She sent it. Felt something shift. The exhaustion still there. The frustration still there. But underneath purpose, meaning. Understanding that their refusal had rippled beyond them. Brooklyn Hayes approached phone in hand. My video has 5 million views. CNN wants to use it. BBC. Everyone. I wanted your permission. Post it everywhere. Make it impossible to ignore. Document it so thoroughly that the next Victoria Ashford thinks twice. Brooklyn nodded. And just so you know, I shared Beacon Financial in the description. People are downloading your app. You're getting new users. Then something good came from something terrible. Marcus Delgado stopped by. Tech Business Daily wants a full profile. Not just today. About Beacon Financial. Your mission. Can we talk after your keynote? Come to our hotel tonight. 8 p.m. We'll give you the full story. But company first, incident second. Deal. Deal. Because honestly, your company is the better story. After he left, the twins opened their presentation. Read through with new eyes. We have to address what happened. We can't pretend we're not the women from the viral video. No. We use it. We open with it. We turn it into our point. They began rewriting, threading personal experience with their company's mission, making explicit what had always been implicit, that Beacon Financial exists because people like them are constantly told they don't belong. Good morning, Gabrielle typed. You may recognize us. 2 days ago, we were told we didn't belong in first class. We refused to move, Simone added. And in refusing, we started a conversation. They worked together, trading keyboard building speech, transforming personal pain into public teaching. An hour in, their father called again. How are my girls processing? Good. Processing is healthy. Did we do the right thing? Carlos has a baby coming. Victoria's life is destroyed. Richard lost his career. That's a lot of damage. Michael was quiet. Do you know what I think about when people ask if consequences are too harsh? I think about every black employee fired for speaking up against racism and nobody cared. Every person denied service with no recourse. Every individual told to accept injustice quietly. Those consequences were harsh too. They just weren't visible. So we did the right thing. You did the only thing. You stood your ground. You refused to accept degradation. You called out injustice. Those are always the right choices. The fact that consequences are visible and public now, that's not your fault. That's just accountability finally having teeth. Thanks, Dad. I love you both. Give that speech tomorrow. Change the world. You're already good at it. The call ended. They returned to their presentation. The plane flew through darkness toward London, toward their keynote, toward whatever came next. They'd kept their seats. But more importantly, they'd kept their dignity. They'd proven that refusing to move was possible, was powerful, was necessary. And somewhere, Destiny Williams was staying in her program. Somewhere other people who'd seen the video were standing taller, taking up more space, refusing harder. That was worth everything. The jetway smelled like recycled air and jet fuel. Their rolling bags thumped over ridges, thump, 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 familiar rhythm from months of travel. Through windows, ground crew moved luggage in orange vests. The plane sat waiting, massive and white door open like a portal. Gabrielle and Simone walked side by side, not talking, just existing in the aftermath. Processing, breathing, continuing. Other passengers boarded around them. A family with toddlers, an older couple holding hands, business travelers on phones, life continuing as if the world hadn't just shifted. At the aircraft door, Captain Rivera waited, 50-something Hispanic silver in his hair uniform, crisp. When he saw the twins, respect mixed with something deeper. Gratitude, maybe. Ms. Laurent on behalf of Meridian. I want to personally apologize for what you experienced. That does not represent who we are. Thank you, Captain. If there's anything you need during this flight, tell me or my crew immediately. We are here to serve you, to ensure your journey is everything it should have been from the beginning. We know this wasn't you. This was individuals making bad choices, not the airline, not the crew. Still, I want you to know we see you. We value you. We're grateful you chose to continue with us despite everything. He stepped aside. They entered. First class was quiet. A few passengers already seated. An older white couple smiled as the twins passed genuine smiles. A younger black man nodded solidarity, needing no words. And there, row 1, seats 1A and 1B sat empty. Waiting. Reserved. Earned. Theirs. Gabrielle stowed her bag. The action automatic practiced. But today it felt significant. This space, this exact space, had been contested. And they'd won. Simone settled into 1B. Gabrielle took 1A. Buckled. Pulled out laptops. Returned to routine, interrupted by someone else's prejudice. Jessica appeared with water. Welcome aboard. Then quieter. I've been with Meridian 8 years. Never seen anything like today. And I'm grateful it was documented. That people saw. Because now it has to change. It happens everywhere. Airports, restaurants, hotels. Everywhere people make assumptions about who belongs in premium spaces. I know. And I'm sorry. For all the times I didn't notice. Didn't speak up. That changes today. For me. Because of you. After she left, other passengers boarded. The familiar parade, some wealthy, some upgraded, some using miles. All belonging because they had tickets. A white businessman, late 50s, settled into 1C. Glanced at the twins, opened his mouth. Gabrielle tensed, then smiled. The Laurent twins, right? Read about your company in the Wall Street Journal. Impressive work. Thank you. He returned to his laptop. Just another passenger. No drama, no assumptions. Just basic decency that should have been standard. The cabin filled. 200 passengers settling in. Most had no idea what happened in the lounge. Most focused on their own journeys. But some knew. Some had seen the video. A few stared with recognition. Some with support. One or two with something like judgment quickly hidden. The twins ignored them. Focused on work. On the presentation needing finalizing. On the speech happening in 16 hours. The door closed with a heavy thunk. Finality. Commitment. They were leaving Atlanta, leaving the scene of confrontation, leaving behind Carlos's empty desk and Laurent's suspension and Victoria's permanent ban, but carrying forward the weight of being seen, the responsibility of representation, the burden they'd never asked for but now owned. Final boarding complete, the intercom announced. Doors closed and secured. The plane pushed back. Slow. Steady. The terminal where everything changed grew smaller. The gate where Carlos had stood. The lounge where Victoria had grabbed Gabrielle's arm. The space where they'd refused to move. All receding. Becoming memory. Becoming footage. Becoming story. The aircraft taxied. Positioned. Then the engines roared and they were moving, accelerating, point of no return, passing, with a gentle lift, airborne, rising. Atlanta fell away beneath them, city lights dimming as they climbed through clouds. The world that had watched them stand firm, growing smaller, more distant, but not gone, never gone, because the internet was forever. 20 million views were forever. Their names, their faces, their refusal, all permanent now. "We did it," Simone said softly. "We did. What comes next? We land. We give the speech. We change more things. We keep going. Together, always together." The plane climbed through turbulence, through clouds, through atmosphere, seeking cruising altitude, seeking smooth air above the chaos. In seats 1A and 1B, the Laurent twins opened their laptops and continued building the speech that would define them, not as victims, not as viral moments, but as what they'd always been. Brilliant women who knew their worth. Flight attendants dimmed the cabin lights, night flying. The world outside was darkness and distance and occasional city lights below. Inside, Gabrielle and Simone worked, typed, refined, prepared, because the fight wasn't over. Never over. But they'd won this battle, kept their seats, stood their ground. Proven dignity isn't negotiable. Tomorrow, they'd prove it again. Bigger stage, bigger audience, more at stake. But tonight, they flew, in seats earned, in space defended, in victory claimed. Enough. For now. For this moment. For this flight. Enough. 2 hours into the flight, cruising at 35,000 feet, most passengers had settled into flying's rhythm. Movies played, laptops glowed, books were read. The gentle hum of pressurized air created that particular airplane atmosphere, suspended time, liminal space. Gabrielle stared at her screen without seeing it. The presentation was there, words she'd written and rewritten, but her mind was elsewhere. She was thinking about Victoria Ashford. Not with satisfaction, not with triumph, just thinking. Trying to understand the architecture of prejudice. How someone becomes a person who looks at 2 young women and decides instantly that they don't belong. Was Victoria born believing black people were less deserving? Or had she learned it, absorbed it through 1,000 small interactions? Her mother's voice, her father's choices, her social circle's unspoken rules, the media she consumed, the neighborhoods she lived in, schools she attended that had few, if any, people who looked like Gabrielle and Simone. Prejudice is taught like language through exposure, repetition, reinforcement. Children absorb their parents' biases like grammar rules. They learn who to fear, who to trust, who to respect based on observed patterns. Victoria had been someone's daughter once, probably someone's mother, definitely someone's wife. She had people who loved her, who'd call her kind, generous. She probably donated to charity, volunteered somewhere, saw herself as decent. And yet she'd looked at Gabrielle and Simone and seen other, seen less than. Seen doesn't belong. "You're thinking about her," Simone said quietly. Not a question. Twin intuition. Trying to understand how someone becomes that. Simone closed her laptop, turned slightly. You want to know if she'll learn anything? If today changed her beliefs, or just made her more careful? Both. Either. She won't change. People like Victoria don't learn they're wrong. They learn they got caught. They learn that the people they targeted had more power than expected. They learn to be more careful, more strategic. But the belief system stays intact. That's depressing. That's reality. Simone's voice wasn't harsh, just factual. Maya, she's 57. She's had 5 decades to examine her prejudices and chose not to. 5 decades of opportunities to notice she treats people differently based on race and chose not to care. Today didn't give her new information about racism. It gave her consequences for racism she already knew she had. Gabrielle processed this, knew her sister was right, but some part wanted to believe people could change. Had to believe it, or what was the point of fighting? But some people will change. Elena did. Jamie did. Maybe even Laurent if she's forced to examine how she prioritized status. Maybe. But they changed because they saw themselves in the mirror we held up. Victoria only saw us, and she'll never see us as fully human, just as the wrong people who happen to have the right connections. Gabrielle pulled up her phone, scrolled through responses. 3 more had come in. Other young women, other students, other people choosing to stay because they'd watched 2 black women refuse to move. This is why it matters. Not because Victoria learns, because destiny does. Because these girls do. Simone read the messages. Her expression softened. You're right. I'm just tired. Tired of having to be the lesson. Tired of educating through trauma. Tired of the fact that us keeping our seats is newsworthy when it should be normal. I know. Silence for a moment. The weight of visibility of representation settling heavily. Can I tell you something always? I'm scared about tomorrow. The keynote. Everyone's watching us differently now, not as tech founders, as the women who stood up to racism. What if we mess up? What if the speech falls flat? What if investors pull out? Gabrielle finished the thought. Simone hadn't voiced. What if Sarah Crawford decides the $25 million is too risky? What if Beacon Financial dies because we couldn't handle being famous? Simone's voice caught. Yeah, that. Then we rebuild. But we won't fail. Want to know why? Why? Because 2 million people are counting on us. Mrs. Patterson in Alabama with her $300. Destiny, who was about to quit. Every person who downloaded our app because they believe we care about them. We can't fail them. No pressure. All the pressure. But we carry it together. Gabrielle reached across the armrest, found her sister's hand, squeezed. I've got you. Simone squeezed back. I've got you too. Remember when we were 7? Those girls at school said we couldn't play on the swings because those swings were for normal kids, and we sat on those swings for entire recess. Didn't play, didn't swing, just sat there claiming space. That's what we did today. Same principle, bigger swings. Simone laughed, actually laughed, tension breaking. When you put it like that, we've been doing this our whole lives. Exactly. This is just another Tuesday for the Laurent twins. Except this Tuesday went viral. They returned to their presentation. The weight felt lighter, fear more manageable. Exhaustion still present but shared and therefore bearable. Around them the plane flew on. Other passengers slept or worked or watched movies unaware that 2 women in row 1 were processing trauma that millions experienced daily but rarely got to resolve with clear consequences. Jessica appeared with dinner service. Ready to order. What do you recommend? The salmon is excellent, but honestly, order whatever you want. Captain's orders. Your meals are complimentary, as is anything else you want. Wine dessert, extra snacks, anything. That's not necessary. I know, but it's appreciated. You gave us a gift today. You documented something that happens constantly but usually goes unaddressed. You made it impossible to ignore. This is our small thank you. After she left, Simone looked at Gabrielle. People are grateful we got harassed. People are grateful we didn't shrink when we were. There's a difference. They ordered dinner, ate in companionable silence. The food was good, the wine better. The knowledge that tomorrow they'd stand before 2,500 people was terrifying and empowering equally. Maya. Yeah. Thank you for calling Dad, for not just moving, for not making it easy for them. Thank you for being there with me. I couldn't have done it alone. You wouldn't have been alone. But I'm glad I was there. Always together. Always together. The plane began its descent toward London, not visible yet through windows, but approaching, drawing closer with every minute. Tomorrow would come. The speech would happen. Millions would watch. They'd succeed or struggle or stumble, but they'd do it together. That was enough. It had to be enough. It was all they'd ever needed. While the world processed and posted, Gabrielle and Simone Laurent slept. Not peacefully, dreams restless, filled with fragments of confrontation. But they slept. The plane flew through darkness. Captain Rivera checked on them once. They were comfortable as anyone could be, carrying the weight of millions watching. Around them life continued, the world spinning. Injustice happening somewhere while justice happened here. Both true simultaneously. In 6 hours they'd land. In 9 hours they'd stand on stage. In 10 hours the world would see them not as victims, but as victors. The difference mattered. The framing mattered. The narrative mattered. They slept. The plane flew. Morning approached. The plane's wheels touched down at Heathrow at 9:47 a.m. local time. Gentle bump, brief screech, smooth deceleration. Outside, gray British morning pressed against glass. Drizzle. Always drizzle. Gabrielle woke from restless sleep. Neck stiff. Mouth tasting like cabin air. Beside her, Simone already stared out the window at terminal buildings sliding past. We're here. We're here. They gathered belongings in synchronized movements. Laptops packed, phones checked, boarding passes located despite not needing them. Habits from a lifetime of travel. The plane taxied, turned, positioned, stopped. Seatbelt sign dinged off. Captain Rivera's voice. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to London Heathrow. Local time is 9:47 a.m. On behalf of Meridian Airlines, thank you for flying with us. He paused, then added, and to our passengers in seats 1A and 1B, thank you. Thank you for your grace, your dignity, your strength. You represent the best of who we aspire to be. Applause erupted. Started in first class, spread to business, rolled through economy. 200 passengers clapping for 2 women who'd simply refused to give up seats they'd earned. Gabrielle felt emotion well up, pushed it back. Not yet. Later. In the hotel. In privacy. But not yet. They deplaned first. Captain Rivera stood at the door. His face showed respect, admiration, gratitude. Thank you for flying with us. And thank you for changing us, for forcing us to look at ourselves honestly. Thank you for listening, for taking it seriously. Jessica appeared beside him, hugged each of them quickly, professionally inappropriate, but humanly necessary. You're going to change the world. Keep going. Through the jetway, into Heathrow's massive terminal, immigration ahead. They joined the queue for non-EU passports, moved slowly, British efficiency tempered by thoroughness. When they reached the front, the immigration officer was a young South Asian woman with kind eyes and a hijab in Heathrow's blue. "Passports, please." She scanned them, looked at names, looked up. Recognition flickered. "Laurent, you're the women from the video." They tensed. "Yes." The officer smiled, stamped both passports firmly. "Welcome to London." And "Well done. My daughter is 10. She's black. She saw your video. Asked me what she should do if someone tells her she doesn't belong. I told her stand firm, like the Laurent twins. Don't move." She handed passports back. "Thank you for that lesson." They walked through, into baggage claim, weighted by Carousel 7. Marcus Delgado appeared rumpled but alert. "Ready for your close-up. Because outside those doors, press gauntlet, CNN, BBC. Everyone wants a piece. We're ready." Their bags appeared. They grabbed them, headed toward the exit, toward cameras and questions and expectations. Automatic doors opened, flashes immediately, microphones, voices shouting. "Ms. Laurent, how do you feel about Victoria Ashford's ban? Will you pursue legal action? What do you want people to learn?" Nervous about the keynote, Gabrielle held up a hand. Silence fell. "We'll make one statement, then we prepare for our speech. We came to London to talk about Beacon Financial and financial literacy, not to discuss Victoria Ashford. She made her choices. She faces her consequences. We're focused on our mission, on building, on moving forward. But what message does this send a reporter called? That dignity isn't negotiable. That every person deserves to occupy space they've earned. That standing firm matters. That consequences matter. That change happens when we refuse to accept less than we deserve. And now Gabrielle said we have a speech to give. Thank you." They walked through the crowd, toward their driver, toward their hotel, toward the XL London Convention Center, where in 3 hours they'd stand on stage and prove they were more than a viral moment. They were the future, and the future was just beginning. The XL London Convention Center smelled like coffee, nervous energy, and anticipation. 2,500 people breathing, shifting, waiting, air conditioning working overtime against body heat and electronics. But there was nothing normal about today. Gabrielle and Simone arrived at 7:30 a.m. Hair and makeup done at the hotel by professionals who'd watched the video and handled them with careful reverence. Outfits chosen with precision. Gabrielle in navy, Simone in charcoal. Both powerful, both ready, both terrified in ways they'd never admit to anyone but each other. The green room was chaos. Other speakers preparing. Tech CEOs reviewing slides. But when the twins entered, conversations paused. Heads turned. A woman approached. Late 40s, Stanford hoodie, warm eyes. "I'm Dr. Sarah Chen. I'm speaking after you. I wanted to say thank you. My daughter is 16, pursuing computer science. She faces discrimination daily. Your video showed her what refusing to back down looks like. Don't minimize. What you did matters. Own it." Marcus Delgado was already there, press credentials around his neck. He waved, gave them a thumbs up. A summit coordinator approached. Young, British, enthusiastic. Ms. Laurent. "Ms. Laurent, I'm David Chen. I'll be getting you mic'd up. How are you feeling?" "Terrified." David smiled. "Good. That means you care. But this is the most attended keynote in summit history. We added seats. People are standing. And everyone's with you." They sat for mic checks, audio tested, video confirmed. The technical side of speaking. At 8:45, David returned. 15 minutes. Full house. Standing room only. 300 extra seats and people are still standing. "No pressure," Simone said dryly. "You already did the hard part. You stood up. You survived. Speaking is easy compared to that. At 8:55, they walked to the stage entrance. Through curtains, they could hear 2,500 people murmuring, could feel anticipation like static before a storm. The moderator, Sarah Mitchell, British tech journalist with silver hair and sharp eyes, caught sight of them, smiled warmly, mouthed, "Ready." They nodded. Lies, but necessary. Sarah walked to center stage. Lights came up. The crowd quieted. "Good morning. I'm Sarah Mitchell, and it is my absolute honor to introduce our keynote speakers." She paused. Let anticipation build. Gabrielle and Simone Laurent are co-founders of Beacon Financial, a revolutionary fintech platform that has transformed financial literacy access for 2 million users worldwide. They are graduates of Spelman College summa cum laude. They are brilliant technologists. They are visionary entrepreneurs. Another pause. And as many of you know, 2 days ago they were told they didn't belong in first class. The audience stirred. They refused to accept that narrative. They stood their ground. And in doing so, they sparked a global conversation about dignity access and who gets to decide where we belong. Please welcome Gabrielle and Simone Laurent. The auditorium exploded. Not polite applause thunder. People on their feet, some already with moisture in their eyes. The sound rolled forward. Gabrielle and Simone walked out together, side by side, shoulders touching, united. The applause got louder. They reached center stage, stood together. Let the applause wash over them for exactly 90 seconds. Then, gradually, it died down. The audience settled. Ready silence. Gabrielle stepped to the microphone. Simone beside her. "Good morning. You may recognize us. 2 days ago, we were told we didn't belong in first class. We were asked to give up our paid seats to accommodate someone who believed her comfort mattered more than our dignity." Pause. In row 12, a woman gripped her partner's hand. We refused. And in refusing, we started a conversation. Someone whispered, "Yes. Not about airplanes, not about seating, about belonging, about worthiness, about who gets to decide where we fit." The auditorium leaned forward. 2,500 people collectively holding breath. "My name is Gabrielle Laurent. My name is Simone Laurent. We're 24 years old. We're co-founders of Beacon Financial, and we're here to talk about access." Presentation slides began, not corporate, sterile, personal. Images of their users, real people, real stories. Not just access to first class, access to capital, access to education, access to financial tools that can change lives. Beacon Financial started with a question. Why is financial literacy a luxury? Why do some communities have access to investment advice, retirement planning, wealth building, while other communities are charged predatory rates, denied loans, and excluded from economic opportunity? The answer isn't comfortable. The answer is built into structures, into policies, into assumptions about who deserves what. Slide showing wealth gap statistics. The median wealth of a white household in America is 10 times that of a black household. Not because of effort, not because of intelligence, because of access, because of history, because of patterns built to exclude that persist, because we don't actively dismantle them. In the 5th row, a black woman in her 40s had tears streaming. Her white colleague put an arm around her shoulders. Beacon Financial is our answer. A free app providing financial literacy to anyone with a smartphone. No credit check, no minimum balance, no gatekeepers. In 18 months, we've reached 2 million users. 73% are from communities traditionally excluded. We've helped users save $47 million collectively. We've helped 12,000 people open their first savings account, They're first at 40, at 50, at 60 years old. We've helped thousands access the tools that wealth is built on. Tools never offered to them, never explained, never made accessible. The audience was completely silent, riveted. But 2 days ago, Simone said, voice shifting quieter, more personal. Someone looked at us and decided we didn't belong. Not because of our company, not because of our accomplishments, because of our skin. A young man in row 23 closed his eyes, nodded. Knew that feeling, because we didn't fit her image of who deserves first class. She was wrong, but she's not alone. Every day in boardrooms and classrooms and airlines and banks, someone is deciding who belongs. Based on appearance, based on assumptions, based on biases so ingrained they don't see them as bias, they see them as truth. And every time someone refuses to accept that judgment, we change things. The twins looked at each other, then back at the audience. We're not the first black women told we don't belong somewhere we earned the right to be. We won't be the last. But maybe. The audience held its breath. If we keep refusing, someone whispered. Yes, if we keep building more voices. Yes, that's right. If we keep proving that belonging isn't given, it's earned. Now dozens of voices. Yes. Then maybe the next generation won't have to fight this fight. The auditorium erupted before they'd finished. People on their feet, not waiting, just rising. But Gabrielle held up a hand. Not finished. The audience settled. Barely. Eager. Final slide. Beacon Financial logo. Beacon Financial is access. Beacon Financial is justice. Beacon Financial is proof that when you give people tools, they build wealth. That when you give people access, they create opportunity. That when you give people dignity, they change the world. Together, perfectly synchronized, they spoke. Thank you. The auditorium exploded. Not just applause, a roar. 2,500 people on their feet, some crying, some shouting, all moved. The standing ovation lasted 4 minutes. Gabrielle and Simone stood together, holding hands where the audience couldn't see, trying not to cry, trying to breathe through the magnitude. They'd told their truth, to the world, without apology, and the world had responded. We see you, we hear you, we're with you. Sarah Mitchell joined them, waited for applause to die enough to speak. Questions. Every hand shot up. The Q&A lasted 45 minutes instead of 20. Questions came rapid fire. Some about Beacon Financial expansion plans' technical infrastructure. Some about the incident, how they'd stayed calm, advice for others facing discrimination. Gabrielle and Simone answered with practiced precision, redirecting personal questions back to their mission, using their platform to teach rather than relitigate trauma. Finally, with 5 keynotes backed up, Sarah had to call it. Let's give them one more round of applause. The audience delivered. One final standing ovation as they walked off stage. Backstage controlled chaos. Journalists swarmed. VCs pushed forward with business cards. Other tech founders wanted photos. Summit staff tried to maintain order, but it was like holding back a flood. The twins were escorted to a private room. David physically blocked the door. 5 minutes. Let them breathe. The door closed. Gabrielle and Simone collapsed into chairs. That was intense. Did we do okay? We told the truth. A knock. David peeked in. There are 3 people who really need to speak with you. VCs from Silicon Valley. 30 seconds. Fine. 3 people entered. 2 men, 1 woman, mid-40s. Expensive casual. The woman spoke first. I'm Sarah Crawford, partner at Elevation Capital. This is Tom Bradley and James Liu. We don't usually ambush founders backstage, but we're prepared to offer Beacon Financial a Series B funding round. $25 million. Simone blinked. Based on a speech. based on a company that's reached 2 million users in 18 months with minimal capital, based on founders who just proved they have integrity. The speech just confirmed what the numbers showed. Sarah pulled out her tablet. Standard terms. Fair valuation. We want you to scale globally. After that speech, we know you will. We need to review terms. Of course, my team will send everything tonight. But I wanted to tell you in person what you're building matters. What you did 2 days ago matters. We see both. We value both. We want to support both. She handed them her card. Top-tier firm. Name recognition that would open doors. Call me tonight or tomorrow. But know this, you're not just building a company, you're building a movement, and we want to be part of it. They left. Before the twins could process, more people entered. Journalists, BBC, CNN, TechCrunch, Bloomberg. Everyone wanted interviews. Marcus Delgado pushed through. I'm doing a comprehensive piece for Tech Business Daily. Cover story. But deeper than just the incident. Full story childhood education company founding vision. Everything. Come to our hotel tonight, 8 p.m. Thank you for trusting me with this. Brooklyn Hayes was there, camera in hand. 30 million views now. Can I do a follow-up show where you are now? Post anything you want. Make it impossible to ignore. For the next hour, the twins did interviews, answered questions, posed for photos. The machine of publicity and opportunity was in full motion, and they were at its center. Finally, Summit Security cleared the room. David returned with water and granola bars. You need food. 3 more interview requests for this afternoon. We'll do them. All of them. You sure we have a platform now? We need to use it while people are listening. David nodded. 2 p.m., 4 p.m., 6 p.m., BBC Bloomberg and a podcast. I'll have you back to your hotel by 8. After he left, the twins finally checked their phones. Thousands of messages. From destiny.williams.cs@gmail.com. Subject: I stayed. I watched your speech. I'm staying in my program. Thank you. From elena.torres@meridianair.com. Subject: Thank you. Your speech gave me language for what I'm building. From carlos.reyes.atl@gmail.com. Subject: Accountability. I watched with my wife. I'm teaching my daughter what you taught me. One from Jamie. You said every time someone refuses to accept judgment, we change things. That's my mission now. Thank you for showing us what courage looks like. This is why we did it. This is why it matters. They kept scrolling. Messages from users, from strangers, from people choosing to stay because they'd watched 2 women refuse to move, from parents teaching their children, from teachers using the video in class. Ripples, spreading outward, touching lives they'd never meet. We raised $25 million. We changed Meridian Airlines policy. We inspired Destiny to stay. We gave Jamie a mission. They looked at each other, started laughing. Not funny laughter, overwhelmed laughter. The kind that comes when reality becomes too big. 2 days ago, we just wanted to get to London. Now we're here, and everything's different. Everything. David knocked. Your car is here. 90 minutes until your next interview. They gathered their things, walked through the convention center. People recognized them, stopped to say thank you, to share stories of discrimination, of standing firm. Each interaction was brief, but each mattered. Each was someone seeing themselves in the twins' story, someone finding courage. Outside, London afternoon was gray but dry. Their car waited. You know what's wild, Simone said. Victoria thought she was putting us in our place. Instead, she launched us into orbit. Karma is real. Just slower than we'd like. But inevitable. They rode in comfortable silence. Processing. Breathing. Tomorrow, they'd do more interviews. Next week, they'd negotiate funding. Next month, they'd expand with resources they'd never dreamed of. But today, in this moment, they were just 2 sisters who'd refused to move. and that refusal had moved the world. Michael Laurent stood before his board of directors, every seat filled. This wasn't optional. This was change. What happened to my daughters should never happen again. But words aren't enough. Policy changes are required. He pulled up the presentation. Slide 1. Operation Dignity. Effective immediately, every Meridian employee will undergo comprehensive bias training. Not optional. Mandatory. From flight attendants to executives to board members. Everyone. Including me. A board member raised his hand. Budget $5 million initial investment. Worth every penny if it prevents one more passenger from being harassed. Next slide. New reporting structures. We are implementing an independent passenger advocacy board. Any passenger experiencing discrimination can report directly, not through normal channels where complaints get buried. Direct reporting, independent investigation, real consequences. Another board member. Liability concerns. Then we fix it. We don't hide it. We acknowledge it exists and create structures to address it. That's integrity. Slide 3. The Laurent Foundation. I'm personally funding a $10 million foundation for inclusive travel initiatives, research, training, advocacy, scholarships for students from underserved communities pursuing aviation careers. The board absorbed this, $10 million, personal funds, making it impossible to argue this was just performance. Elena Torres will present the next section. Elena stood. She'd prepared, rehearsed, but still felt nervous. Our VIP lounges are being redesigned. New signage, new training, new metrics measuring how staff treat every passenger, not just high-status ones. She showed mock-ups. All passengers welcome. Dignity is not determined by status. Training materials featuring the Laurent twins' story, not as tragedy, but as teaching moment. We're also implementing quarterly audits. Anonymous observers evaluating how staff respond to passengers of different races, ages, presentations. Bias detected means immediate retraining. Second offense termination. This is aggressive. This is necessary. And if you'd been in that lounge, if you'd watched 2 accomplished women be harassed while staff facilitated, you'd understand why. The board voted. Unanimous approval. Operation Dignity was launched. The for sale sign had been up 5 days. Price already reduced once. 20% below market. Desperation pricing. Victoria sat in her nearly empty drawing room. Most furniture sold or stored. What remained looked sparse, abandoned. Her phone rang. The realtor. Mrs. Ashford. I have an offer. Below asking, but given circumstances. How much below 30%? Victoria closed her eyes. Hundreds of thousands lost because everyone knew. Everyone had seen. Buying the Ashford house meant buying Victoria Ashford's shame. Take it. I can't live here anymore. I understand. I'll draw up paperwork. After hanging up, Victoria poured wine. Afternoon wine. Becoming a habit. The only thing dulling constant awareness of her phone, her life as national punchline. She'd tried posting an apology, carefully worded by a crisis consultant she'd hired with money she didn't have. I deeply regret my actions. I failed to treat fellow passengers with dignity they deserved. I am committed to learning from this experience. Responses were immediate and brutal. Too late. You're only sorry you got caught. This is what happens when Karen meets consequences. She'd deleted the post, deleted all social media, but the internet was forever. Screenshots existed. The video existed. Her face frozen grabbing Gabrielle's arm existed permanently. Her lawyer had sent divorce papers yesterday. Richard wanted it finalized quickly, wanted to distance himself legally, financially, socially. She signed them this morning. 30 years ended with a signature. Victoria had been someone once. Country club member, charity board director, respected Greenwich Society member, platinum elite flyer, wife of a senior partner. Now she was a meme, a cautionary tale, a case study. The woman who grabbed the wrong arm and lost everything. The irony wasn't lost on her. She'd tried to assert dominance and lost everything, had tried to put two women in their place and been removed from every place she'd ever occupied. But understanding irony didn't mean understanding error. Victoria still believed deep down that she'd been unlucky, that she'd targeted the wrong people, that if they'd been anyone else, this would have worked out differently. She didn't believe she was wrong. She believed she'd been caught. That was the tragedy. Not what happened to her. What didn't happen inside her. The transformation that never occurred because admitting error meant confronting 57 years of unchallenged beliefs. She poured more wine, turned on the television. BBC News, the Laurent twins, again, being interviewed about Beacon Financial, thriving while Victoria drowned. She changed the channel. CNN, more Laurent twins, the video playing, her voice. First class is not for everyone. She turned off the TV, sat in silence, waiting for buyers, waiting for movers, waiting for a future that would be smaller, quieter, marked forever. Consequences, real ones, permanent ones. Richard sat in his car outside his former building, looking up at where his name used to be. The letters were gone now. Ashford removed, just Klein and Associates remaining. He remembered their wedding. Victoria, in white, radiant young. Had the prejudice been there, then subtle, easy to ignore, or had it grown over years? He'd been an accomplice through silence, not just by failing to stop her, by benefiting from the same structures she defended, by accepting clients who'd never hire black lawyers, by attending clubs with no black members, by living in neighborhoods designed to exclude. He wasn't innocent. He was just finally paying. A notification appeared, a former colleague, one of the few still speaking to him. Heard you're starting a solo practice. Good luck. If you need references for clients who don't know about everything, let me know. Small kindness. But something. He started the car. He'd rebuild. Smaller. Humbler. With lessons learned too late, but learned nonetheless. It was a start. Lauren Fitzgerald sat at her kitchen table, termination letter in hand. The investigation had concluded. Her employment was ended. 12 years climbing the ladder. Doing what she'd been taught. Prioritizing status because that's what kept customers happy. Complaints low, her employed. Except it hadn't kept her employed. Her daughter, age 8, came into the kitchen. "Mommy, why are you home?" "I made a mistake at work, honey." "Can you fix it?" Could she? Lauren thought about the Laurent twins, about standing firm, about Jamie Kim speaking up when she'd told him to be quiet. "I'm going to try. Starting now. Want to help Mommy learn how to be brave?" Her daughter nodded. It was a start. The office buzzed with energy. 15 new employees this week, engineers, customer service reps, marketing specialists. The Series B funding meant rapid expansion. Isabella Morales stood presenting community outreach strategies. Our users aren't just numbers. They're people whose lives are changing. She clicked through testimonials. A grandmother saving for the first time at 68. A single father building credit. A young woman avoiding predatory loans. The Laurent twins' story brought visibility. But our mission brings transformation. We're building lasting change. Gabrielle and Simone joined via video from London, staying another week for speaking engagements. How's the team motivated? Everyone understands we're not just building a company, we're dismantling barriers. Good, because we just signed partnerships with 4 universities. They're promoting Beacon Financial to students, especially first-generation college kids. That's huge. That's just the beginning. We have meetings with community organizations, churches, nonprofits. Everyone who reaches populations traditional banking ignores. We're going to them. The meeting continued. Plans, strategies, growth, but also humanity. Team members sharing how they'd used Beacon Financial, how they'd helped family, how the app was creating measurable ripples. After Isabella stayed on the call. Can I ask something personal? Always. How do you deal with being famous with everyone watching? The twins exchanged a glance. Honestly, it's exhausting. Every interview asks about Victoria. We're the women from the viral video before we're tech founders. But it's also purposeful. We have a platform. We can spotlight issues. We can inspire people like Destiny, who was about to quit but stayed. That's impact. That's why we do this. Not for fame, for destiny. For the next destiny. For everyone who needs to see someone who looks like them refuse to shrink. The call ended. Isabella looked around the office, at the diverse team, at the mission statement. Financial dignity for everyone. No exceptions. They were building something special. Something that would outlast the viral moment. Something that would change lives long after videos stopped trending. The billboard went live at 9:03 a.m. on a Monday. 4 stories tall, digital, rotating with other ads every 30 seconds. But when this ad appeared, something happened that didn't usually happen in Manhattan. People stopped walking. The image was stunning. Gabrielle and Simone in airplane seats, not real seats, but stylized studio recreation. Lighting perfect. Their expressions genuine mid-laugh sisters sharing private joy. Laptops open. Professional, but human. Belonging absolutely. The tagline was simple. Meridian Airlines. Your seat is earned. Your presence is valued. Your journey matters. Hashtag seat earned Times Square assaulted the senses. Car horns. Tourist chatter in 12 languages. Hot dog carts and exhaust fumes. Digital billboards cycled through ads for Broadway shows, Coca-Cola, Samsung. Then their faces appeared 4 stories tall, and the noise seemed to pause, as if the image itself commanded attention. Traffic slowed on 42nd Street. Tourists stopped mid-selfie. New Yorkers looked up. Phones came out. Photos taken. Social media posts uploaded before people even moved on. Within 15 minutes, hashtag seat earned was trending. 6 months after the original incident, the twins were back in conversation. But this time, not as victims. As the face of an airline that had learned. A young black girl, maybe 10, stood with her mother staring up. Mommy, look. They're beautiful. Yes, baby, and powerful. Strong, just like you're going to be. Can I be like them? You already are. You just need to remember it. Across town, NYU students noticed the billboard on Instagram. That's them. The twins who refused to move. My business ethics professor used their story. My sociology teacher, too. They're everywhere now. Forbes cover last month. TED Talk next month. Good. They earned it. In a Midtown office, an executive showed the billboard during diversity training. This is what refusing erasure looks like. This is claiming space. This is the standard we're building toward. Victoria was walking back from the grocery store. No driver, no help. Her downsized life included walking, carrying her own bags, living without insulation wealth provides. She passed a digital billboard, and there they were. Gabrielle and Simone Laurent. Smiling, successful, thriving, massive, unavoidable, impossible to ignore. Your seat is earned. Victoria stopped. Couldn't move past it. Grocery bags growing heavy, ice cream melting. 2 women passed, saw the billboard, commented. Those women are incredible. Did you see their TED Talk announcement? Me too. They're inspiring. Their voices faded, but Victoria remained, staring at faces that reminded her would always remind her of the moment she'd lost everything. Not because she'd learned, because she'd gotten caught. because she'd targeted women with power she hadn't known they possessed. She eventually continued walking, but the image stayed with her, would always stay. A permanent reminder that some mistakes don't fade, some moments don't forgive, some consequences are forever. Gabrielle and Simone sat in their actual corner office now, with windows overlooking Atlanta, reviewing the billboard campaign. "It's perfect," Isabella said. 3 million impressions in 6 hours. Sentiment 96% positive. Meridian's stock is up 8%. Brand approval at all-time high. Good for them. Accountability followed by change should be rewarded. More importantly, Beacon financial downloads are up 31% this week. People see the billboard, search your names, find our app. Gabrielle pulled up recent reviews. Read one aloud. Saw the Laurent twins on a billboard. Downloaded their app. Just opened my first savings account at 42. No bank would give me a chance. Beacon Financial didn't judge. 5 stars. That is why we do this. Not the billboards, not the fame, not the funding. For the 42-year-old opening her first account. Exactly. Elena knocked, smiling. She'd flown in from headquarters. "I wanted to show you something. Our passenger satisfaction scores are up 53% in 6 months. Complaints about discrimination down 86%. The training is working. Culture is changing." She swiped to another screen. "And we're hiring differently. More diversity at every level, from gate agents to executives. We're not just talking about inclusion. We're living it. That's transformation. You started it. You refused to move. You forced us all to move forward. We all did it together. You spoke up. Jamie spoke up. Passengers documented it. This was collective action, creating collective change." The meeting continued. Plans for the next phase. International expansion. New partnerships. More impact. But underneath the business strategy was something simpler. 2 women had refused to give up seats they'd earned. Had stood firm when it was scary. Had called for help when they needed it. Had weaponized their father's position, not for revenge, but for accountability. And the world had shifted. Not completely. Not everywhere. But measurably. Visibly. Meaningfully. That was enough. Not everything. But enough. Gabrielle and Simone Laurent walked through the terminal like they'd walked through 1,000 terminals before. Except now, people recognized them. Nodded respectfully. Smiled. A few asked for photos, which the twins provided. They were no longer just travelers. They were symbols, reminders, proof that refusing to move could move mountains. The Meridian VIP lounge had been redesigned. New signage. "Welcome. Everyone belongs here." They entered. Elena Torres was there now, overseeing VIP experiences across the entire airline. "Ms. Laurent. Ms. Laurent, welcome back. It's good to be back." The lounge felt different, warmer, more intentional. Art from diverse artists. Staff representing every demographic. Policies posted about dignity and respect. They settled into comfortable chairs. Not a performance, just routine. 2 women traveling for business. A young woman approached hesitantly. Early 20s. Professional attire, nervous energy. "Excuse me, I don't mean to bother you, but I have to say thank you. You're not bothering us. My name is Destiny Williams. We met a year ago in London, at the summit. You gave me your card." Recognition lit Gabrielle's face. The computer science student, who was thinking about quitting. "I didn't quit. I got an internship at Google, then a full-time offer. I start next month. Because I watched you refuse to shrink." Simone stood, hugged her. "We're so proud of you. I'm here with my mom." Destiny gestured toward an older woman nearby, watching with emotion in her eyes. We're flying to San Francisco. I'm moving, starting my career. Her mother approached. Thank you for giving my daughter courage. Thank you for raising her strong. They talked for a few minutes, exchanged contact information, promised to stay connected, watched destiny walk toward her gate, transformed and transforming. This is why, always why, their flight was called. They boarded. Captain Rivera stood at the door, still flying, still greeting passengers personally. Welcome aboard, ladies. Always an honor. They found their seats, 1A and 1B, the same seats that had started everything. But as they settled in, a white businessman in his 50s was already in 1C. He glanced at the twins, started to speak. Gabrielle tensed, then smiled warmly. The Laurent twins, right? Read about Beacon Financial. Impressive work. He returned to his laptop. Progress. Real progress. But 2 rows back, a couple kept glancing forward, whispering, looking annoyed. Simone caught Gabrielle's eye. They'd both noticed. Always another battle. Always. But we're not fighting alone anymore. Jamie Kim appeared now, senior supervisor. He approached the couple. Is there a problem? The couple stammered. No problem. We were just what Jamie's voice was polite but firm. Just assuming they didn't belong. Just questioning their right to space they paid for. He smiled, but it didn't reach his eyes. That's exactly what training teaches us to recognize. And interrupt. The couple went silent. These passengers earned their seats, just like you earned yours. Everyone here belongs. Understood? Understood. Jamie caught the twins' eyes, nodded once. They nodded back. The plane pushed back, started taxiing. Gabrielle pulled out her laptop. Simone did the same. Back to work. Building. Growing. Changing things one user, one policy, one moment at a time. The plane accelerated, lifted, flew. Below them, the world spun with its injustices and victories, its setbacks and progress, its Victorias learning nothing, and its destinies rising. Above them, Gabrielle and Simone kept working, kept building, kept refusing to shrink. Not because the fight was over, because some fights never end. Some fights just change shape. Some fights get inherited generation to generation, with each one pushing the line a little further forward. And these twins, they were pushing hard. They rose. Before we go, if this story moved you, if you felt something when Gabrielle and Simone refused to give up their seats, if you're inspired by destiny choosing to stay in her program, do me a favor. Hit that like button right now. It tells YouTube this story matters. It helps us reach more people who need to hear it. And subscribe to this channel. Because we're not just telling stories. We're documenting change. We're showing what happens when dignity isn't negotiable. We're proving that standing firm creates ripples that reach further than we can measure. Share this video. Send it to someone who's been told they don't belong. Send it to someone who needs to see what refusing to shrink looks like. Send it to someone who's fighting their own battle and needs to know they're not alone. Drop a comment telling me where you're watching from. Tell me your story. Tell me about the time you stood your ground or the time you wish you had. Tell me about the Victorias you've encountered and the destinies you've seen rise. We're building something here, not just a channel. A community, a movement of people who believe that every seat is earned, that every person deserves dignity, that change happens when we refuse to accept less than we deserve. So subscribe, share, comment, and most importantly, when someone tries to tell you that you don't belong in a space you've earned, remember Gabrielle and Simone Laurent. Remember that refusing to move can move mountains. See you in the next one. The end.